Menendez case in particular, what that has involved is reviewing thousands of pages of confidential prison records to analyze the rehabilitation aspect of resentencing. It has involved reviewing thousands of pages of trial transcripts from 2 months-long trials. It has involved talking to all the different prosecutors who've been involved with the Menendez case, defense counsel. It has involved reviewing voluminous exhibits and pleadings and court filings, not just at the trial level, but at the California Court of Appeals, where the Court of Appeals affirmed these convictions, and again at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they again affirmed these convictions. So we've been doing that effort, and that effort continues. As part of that effort, what I said is that I would also speak to any victim family member who wanted to speak with me. And that's what we did today. A number of the victim family members came in. It was a very productive session where they gave me all their thoughts about what should happen in this case, their experiences that they wanted to share, the ultimate direction that they wanted this case to go. And so it was a very productive conversation over a number of hours. Again, I invite and have continued to invite any additional victim family member, and I think virtually all of them were there today, that wanted to speak with me, to speak with me. And that forms part of the information data set that we will use to determine what the right result should be in both the habeas proceedings, although the impact, the family victim members' impact is less important as far as a habeas proceeding goes, as well as the resentencing issues that are going to be coming forth. Right now, the resentencing hearing is set for January 30th and 31st. That date is the date we're working against. If it changes, we'll certainly let you know. And we will continue to do this difficult but important work of reviewing the facts and the law to make the right decision in this case. So that is the remarks I wanted to start with. I'll now open it up for any questions.
Did anything change after meeting with the family in your mind?
In my mind. Again, what I'm doing is processing all this information. So we have not finished the review, for instance, of all the prison files. Again, it numbers in the thousands of pages, covering well over 30 years of prison experience for both Lyle and Eric Menendez. Nor have I finished reviewing all the trial transcripts as well. But we're inputting that additional information that I received today, which was useful information, into the entire decision matrix on what to do with this case.
How was it helpful, though? I mean,
well, again, I've had the chance to read everything any of these victim family members have either testified about or written. And hearing it live directly from them is a very useful additional way to learn that information.
So do you feel that family members that were there that don't want the Menendez brothers to be resentenced or released, or was everyone who was there today in favor of their release?
So the actual contents of what was discussed, it was in some ways an informal, off-the-record discussion where I invited them to tell me anything they wanted to tell me. So I'm not going to relay to you one way or the other what it is precisely that they said, which is what I'm not going to do.
You say you're looking
Yes.
for what would constitute rehabilitation when you look at the prison records and have these conversations. What in your mind constitutes rehabilitation?
Well, again, we're going to follow the law as it deals with rehabilitation. And part of rehabilitation is, have you engaged in any additional illegal conduct while you've been in prison? If so, what type of conduct? Have you done anything positive in prison? Have you started organizations that help other prisoners, as one example? Have you yourself used that time to improve yourself, done nothing, or on the flip side, done something harmful while you've been there? Those are all the different types of factors that you look into as far as rehabilitation, and that's why you go through the prison records, which are voluminous, to make that calculation.
So just to follow up on that really quickly, I know you're not going to give us an answer now, but there's both a yes and a no when you go through some of the records and the sentencing reports. There's a cell phone that shows up at one point. There's fights that happen. There's very positive things that happen, efforts to help other inmates. So how do you square them against one another?
You look at them all. So you don't look at any one instance in isolation. You look at the entire record of behavior while they've been in prison for over 3 decades. And ultimately what you're doing is you're providing that information, as we intend to do, to the court, because the court makes the final decision here. Though the DA has started the process by filing a reconsideration motion, as you're aware, the court has also filed its own motion for reconsideration. And the court ultimately has the final call on, first, whether it wants to reconsider the sentence at all, and second, if it does want to reconsider, what the new sentence should be. And the state legislature, through the laws of resentencing, has given the court an enormous amount of power to do that. And as you're aware, depending on the sentence, if the sentence provides for the ability to then have parole, and that would, in the Menendez cases, potentially impact the youthful parole statutes that have also been passed, then the decision would ultimately go to a parole board on whether or not to grant parole. And as far as that goes, a parole board, which usually is just 2 people, would make that decision, and then the governor himself, if it was to be a grant of parole, would have 120 days to make one of 3 decisions: either agree with the parole board, disagree and reverse the parole board, or send it back to the full parole board to actually consider the case.
Right now, you haven't made any decision.
I have not.
You previously said you might consider the brothers separately and give 2 different recommendations. Is that still true? Can you expand on that?
So let me make it crystal clear what I said before and the implication of it. In any case, whether it's the Menendez case or any case, you look at each individual defendant separately. You look at each individual crime separately. There's effectively 3 crimes that they were convicted of. One dealing with the first-degree murder of Jose Menendez, their father, one dealing with the first-degree murder of their mother, Kitty Menendez, and then a conspiracy statute tying them all both together. So you would look at each individual crime, and then each individual, for the resentencing's, rehabilitation. Now, that might lead you to the same results. It might lead you to different results, and I'm not here to predetermine where we're going to end up for each individual defendant and each individual crime. That's what this analysis is all about.
The victim's family.
May I ask a couple of questions, please? Can you describe just in general, what was the tone? It's roughly 3 hours by my calculation. Was it a good give and take? Was it emotional?
It was a productive meeting. That's how I'll describe it.
And the second question, when you talk about rereading the transcripts, you're talking about both the trial and then the retrial. I ask that because just that alone seems like an enormous task. So I'm curious how much of your time and everything else that's on your plate this is taking.
It's taking a lot of time, but it's one of those decisions that you want to make sure you get right. So I'm working with a team of people that are also engaged in reading these transcripts, and then bringing to my attention the transcripts that they're reading. I read those transcripts. So it's there's not a lot of free time in my life right now, but that's okay. I didn't sign up for a job that said I was going to have a lot of free time. And so we're going to spend the time necessary to get this decision right.
Can you talk about, do you speak directly yourself personally to Eric and Lyle? Will you communicate directly with them at any point? And does the number of family members mean anything in this consideration?
The number is not as important as the fact that the statements that the family members have made before and continue to make. So whether the number is 1 or 26, the number itself is not that important. As far as speaking with the Menendezes, no decision has been made to speak directly with the Menendezes themselves.
District Attorney, the victim's family has said in previous statements that they are considering petitioning a request for the state Attorney General's office to review this case out of concern of how you're going to go. Did they express that to you, and what is your reaction to that?
They did not express that to me at this meeting.
And your reaction to that?
I don't believe that there's any conflict of interest or justification for the state attorney general to take over this case. Ultimately, the state attorney general can do their own analysis and reach whatever conclusion they want.
Is there anyone still with the office that was assigned to the case? And if not, are you speaking with anyone prosecuting the case?
Yes and yes. So yes, there are former prosecutors who are still with the office that I've spoken to. And yes, there are people who were affiliated with the case early on that I've also spoken with.
The lawyer for the family, Mark Gregorius, canceled his press conference that he was supposed to have this afternoon. Should we read anything into that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
The lawyer for the family canceled his press conference this afternoon after the meeting. Should we read anything into that?
I wouldn't know one way or the other.
Can you talk about how many attorneys in your office are working on this and whether you think a decision by your office can be made by that January 30th date?
A number of attorneys are working on this beside myself, and right now that January 30th date is a date that we intend to hold to. Again, if something comes up that militates us asking for additional time, we'll certainly go to the court before we would go to the press, and then we afterwards let you know. All right. Thank you all very much for coming today. And as developments come up,
Could you just comment?
we'll have one last question.
The family has been back and forth about this regarding the appointment of Kathleen Katie to the Office of Victim Services and that appointment and the associations with this case and her former representation of a family member, which seems differently than both of these family members.
Certainly. Kathy Katie will be starting as the director of the Bureau of Victim Service come Monday. Kathy Katie is walled off from the Menendez case. I've had very limited conversations with Kathy Katie about this, other than to be referred to the pleading that she submitted back in October on behalf of her client. And with respect to that client, who will now have new representation, if that client wants to speak with me, I will make myself available as I have for the other victim family members. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right, you have been listening to the new DA for Los Angeles, Nathan Hochman, talking about the Menendez brothers. It's a story that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, where he was supposed to have this meeting with victim family members. He said that meeting was productive, but there's a